This is homework number 1, Math 122, and I'm going to show you how to do problem 13. Alright, we have a really long expression this time, so give yourself lots of room horizontally across your paper, and let's not write too big. We have, and watch how I say this, the opposite of. Now, a lot of people will say negative. There's a reason I'm going to say the opposite of instead of negative. And inside a pair of parentheses, 2x plus 3y plus z, and I'm going to put a little dash in the middle of that to make it look like a letter instead of the number 2, minus 7 plus another expression in parentheses, 4x minus 2y minus z plus 8, and finally, let's see if I can squeeze it all in here. Ooh, it's going to be tight. Plus negative 3x plus y minus 2z, oh boy, and then finally subtract 4. Alright, I didn't write small enough. A lot going on here, and if we look at our order of operations for simplifying an expression, it says to do anything inside of parentheses first. Well, we have 3 groups of terms inside parentheses, but if you look at these terms inside the parentheses, none of them are alike. So I can't do anything with what's inside of the parentheses. 2x, 3y, z, all different letters, so those are not like terms. And subtract 7, there's no other plain numbers in this parentheses to add or subtract the 7 from. Likewise with the other 2 sets of parentheses. So what I'm going to do instead is remove the parentheses and then combine into like terms. Now that's going to be really easy on these last 2 pieces of the expression because of the plus sign in front of them. We're actually just going to be able to take the parentheses off of these 2 and just recollect the terms and add any like ones together. But because this set of parentheses has this opposite or negative sign in front of it, it means that each of these terms inside needs to turn to the opposite. Everybody in here needs to get subtracted from nothing, from 0. But what that does is turn them to their opposite. So taking off these parentheses gives me negative 2x, or subtract 2x. It also gives me opposite of plus, subtract 3y. Opposite of, think opposite. Opposite of plus z is subtract z. Opposite of subtract 7 is add 7. Take a second to think about what I just did. Notice how everybody was either positive or negative before, or was added or subtracted, is now having the opposite thing done. This minus sign or opposite sign was being distributed to each one. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this plus sign in front of this pair of parentheses doesn't change anybody at all. Plus doesn't change a thing. It doesn't make everybody their opposite. And likewise for this one, so I can just say plus a negative 3x plus y minus 2z and subtract 4. Alright, have you got all your terms still? Let's count them for a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Make sure you haven't lost anyone in the process of copying this down again. Okay, next we are going to start finding our like terms. And again, terms are alike if they have the same variable to the same power. So I'm going to start with this negative 2x. I'm going to put a red box around it. Now I'm going to go into the rest of my expression and find any other of the terms that have an x. And since all the x's are to the same power, the first power, invisible 1 for the power, then I can just add them all together. And watch what I'm going to do. I am going to box in the sign in front of them, because that's going to tell me whether I'm adding the terms together or subtracting them, whether I'm adding negatives or adding positives. So these two can go together along with this guy right here. Alright, so now if I rearrange the order, which normally you would do this part in your head, but I'm going to write this out for you so you can see what I'm doing in my head. I'm going to be putting together a negative 2x plus 4x and plus a negative 3x, or subtract x. And then I'm going to crunch that down. I'm also going to go up and gather all the y terms together now. Let me grab a different color for that. And right here I have subtract 3y, or you can think of this as add a negative 3y. What am I going to add that to? A negative 2y. Notice again how I subtracted that, I boxed in that subtraction sign in front of it. And I also have a y term here, and that y term I can put a 1 on. Anytime you have a bare negative variable, dress it up by putting a 1 on it. So I'm going to be grabbing this plus 1y. Alright, let me write those three terms down now. I have minus 3y minus 2y, all the terms in the green box now, plus 1y. And I'm going to be putting those terms together. Alright, now I'm going to go gather up all of the z terms. Let me grab the orange marker here. I have a minus z, and again I can put a 1 in front of that because it's a bare naked variable. I've got a minus 1z again. Put a 1 in front of that with the minus sign. And over here I have a minus 2z. Again, I'm also boxing in the sign in front of that variable. Alright, let's write those down. So I've got minus 1z, another minus 1z here, and then minus 2z. Alright, and the last thing I have to gather up is the numerals. I have a plus 7, I have a plus 8, and I have a minus 4. Let's see if I can squeeze these in on the end here. Plus 7, plus 8, and minus 4. Alright, I'll be adding up all the z's, and I'll be adding up all the numerals. All the things that are alike are next to each other. Now most people would do this step here in their head just by looking through the expression and gathering up those like terms in their head. I wrote them out and rearranged the order because according to the order of operations I can do that as long as I keep the sign with them. Alright, now gathering up all the x's. I have negative 2x's here, positive 4x's here, minus 3x here. All I have to do to simplify this is to add their coefficients. Negative 2 plus 4 is positive 2. It's like doing 4 minus 2. Positive 2 plus negative 3 is going to give me a negative 1x. All that boils down to negative 1x. Let's look at the y's. I've got a negative 3, a negative 2, and a positive 1. Negative 3 and the negative 2 make negative 5. Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. And what do I have? I have y's. I just added up all my y's. Now notice the variable just stays the same when I'm adding like terms. I'm not multiplying these numbers, so it's not going to be x to the third power or y to the third power. It's just how many x's do I have? I have this many x's. On the z's, I have a negative 1, a negative 1, and a negative 2z. Negative 1 makes negative 2, plus another negative 2 is negative 4z. And finally, the numerals. 7 plus 8 is 15. 15 minus 4 is 11, and it's positive. And I'm almost done here. Last step, mathematicians are lazy. If they don't need extra symbols or numbers, they remove them. So we don't need the 1 in front of the x, we just understand it's there. Subtract 4y, subtract 4z, and plus positive 11. And that was the answer to number 13.